Nitya Jerdo Doji Chonto Mate, Tenengaranzo, Duji Karmakam Song, Lama Cheperton Papa, Pengaran Jambal Zangbu, Sungare, La Pengaran Jambal Zangbote, Karmapa, Kuntin Tupa, Tonga Tending, Yalo, Teni Kuntin Dunba, Chura Jansuga, Lama. No, la tini teya ta kongre jitang tangbo gunglo chunchung ka kasala taba juma yimbala. Tini tonga ten ting ki tongni dangwa hu tini pe jang chola. Jang namsu chumo si yuare la tini ti namsu chumo ti ki u la tini namsu semoto si re chunchung jin choga u la yeba. Chotela dropu je yeba tinde yore la tini ti dropu gna lo job ji la tini chaje chembo gom nang re.
First of all, I'd like to wish you all good morning. And now we will recite the Vajradhara lineage prayer. And this Vajradhara lineage prayer was composed by one of the greatest of the Karmakaju lamas, Pengar Jampel Sampo. Pengar Jampel Sampo was a student of the 6th Karmapa, Tongwan Dindan, and a lama of the 7th Karmapa, Chudha Gyatso. When he was young, he was just an ordinary monk, but he met Tongwa Dindan and he requested and received the oral instructions from him. And then he went to the north of Tibet to a place called Sky Lake. And in the middle of Sky Lake, there is an island, a mountain that comes up, and that is called the Semodo, the mountain Semodo in the Sky Lake. And in that mountain, there is a small retreat cave. And so Pengar Jampel Sampo spent 18 years meditating in that cave.
Tene tatana la nguma guru Rinpoche da tene tuto chepar chem mangbo tene tingen sen gomne chinlap nang ge jitang ne chepar chire la ya tana la gom jap kap la pe kap ka la nyen kha ye chimbo do yore la tene te ya tanda jitang ge gengha chola chakwa cha tene ti tai ne ro ne dupu la pe tene yaka chakpa te hyo tene mesoyan Longchenpa mepa tene derban rabo kanya mepa tene teacher na hindo emba pe tingen zen pelwa yore de kapka la tene chola tar chapa chage yo mare la chapa macha na lo ni la tene mela derba yung to yo mare tene teacher na nguma tuto kahi tena tingen zen gom na kapsala tene chapa macha ne pe kule kabo chung lo ju ya yore de na Pengar Jampel Sampo la tende ke kungan rabu kanya majung are la tene ti junsen de kapka la tene dehi jab de tene memayeng ke soa phula re se ke rabu yang kapka la tingen zen ji se ye ne tene kangal majung are se kan tare yong khon la kungal kanya majung wa tene chaje chembo lo job ji la gom ne tene tingen zen chepar ji tuju lantong tene tingen zen chepar ji tuju lantong ne khon ke tanda doji chung tum so de song na re.
This cave is a place where in the past Guru Rinpoche and many great Mahasiddhas, many great meditators had practiced samadhi meditation. And so it was a place that had really exceptional blessings from that. It was a wonderful place to practice meditation. But although it was a wonderful place to practice meditation, sometimes there was a bit of a danger. The reason is that in the winter, the lake would freeze over, and then you could go out to the lake and then and go up to the retreat cave and sit there. And then in the summer, the ice would melt and no one could come. There was no busyness at all. A wonderfully isolated place and a very good, very favorable place for practicing meditation. But sometimes the ice wouldn't freeze over, and then you wouldn't be able to spend 2 years there at that time if it didn't freeze over. And so some people, when they were practicing meditation, did have problems because the lake didn't freeze and it became very difficult for them. There are stories about this. But Pengar Jompo Sampo didn't have any sort of difficulty at all. Some people say that maybe non-humans gave him offerings. Some people say that he ate the undefiled food of samadhi. But in either case, he had no difficulties at all, and he managed to spend 18 years in retreat in that cave, practicing meditation. And as he did practice, this really wonderful, excellent meditation arose within him. And after that excellent meditation arose within him, he sang this short Vajradhara lineage prayer.
Tene ta te tabu in bichirna, tene jitang sonde de tene Longchenpa, tene kon dang tingen se cheparchin tuji lantone sumba in bichirna, Longchenpa in bichirna. Tene tenje ong de siena, tene kon ke lojob ji la, shoja chenpo gombe nyom nyong tene songga pa in bichirna. Tene tenzo pe tingen se gombe ka se sen la pembo. Tene te tenda sabo, tene tsek nyunyu ko dewa, ta te tabu yepa re la, tene te la tene shenla chepara jinga onta shepa yina yanda, tsidang pusam tsupa yinba onta shena yanda te, tene ngaranso chuji nzimbeke lobju tamchi ji perna, densa chenpo tamchi ji jang te hyangdan nanga yepa jayta, tene te yendo gamba tamchi, 대견도 드니 잡아다 메자 포모 주지바 감각에 향단 난게 와라 티 향단 나와데 베 생아 제버지 다 뎀바 용기 와래 드니 티처나 나란소 두견도 데 향단 난게 와라 드니 티 향단 나와 갑슬라 투 마인바 나네 드니 지탕게 가지게 사제진 부지베게 라마 탐지라 대바도 무그 제바다 드니 사제진 부 또방 안도 저르게 손데도 만남이야보 나네 향단데 송마루지.
That is why this prayer is one that has great blessings, and it's really very beneficial for our being, because it came out of the samadhi that was born within Pengar Jompo's being, and so it has these great blessings. Not only that, in terms of the meaning, Pengar Jompo Sampo said this prayer based upon his 18 years of experience meditating. And so for that reason, it's really beneficial for our minds in terms of developing meditation. It's got a very profound meaning, but it's a very short, very few words, and they're very easy to understand. And so in that way, whether you say, oh, it's got excellent blessings, or whether you say that the meaning is excellent and wonderful, for all of us who practice this lineage, then it is very beneficial. And so we chant in all of the great seats of the Karma Kagye lineage. It is chanted in all of the Kagye monasteries. It is chanted. All the monks and nuns and all of the lay people, all the male and female practitioners, we all chant this, and it all brings great blessings to all of us. And so for that reason, when we recite this prayer now, please, please at the time that we're reciting it, please don't let your mind be distracted, be non-distracted, and please generate great faith and devotion in the lamas of the Karma Kagye lineage and in the Mahamudra. And so please, with this faith and devotion, please supplicate and pray that the realization of Mahamudra may be born within you. And so please recite the prayer in this fashion.
Tene ta tanda cerdo quinci toro pense per ricevere danzo di la ye lam je som ye penane ta ye nelu ye ka tene ye nelu ye ka te la cerdo tene kasin chutin tangbola kari hu paresena tene dewarhi binimbote senjin tongje jisanji jela yuyo rese chuntin tangbola di korte hubarela tene chuntin nipala te namda long lepar drba se du tene tela long gone sanji jamden de ji ndoye nondon de dewarhi binimbo yuye be jun sensong yo re 대 제수 대 연도 단다 산지 좀 된대지 송화가 지대 탐지가 나나 되네 대화기 비니보 요야 버송 요래 대 연도 자사 상방금부가 땡주 침보 질라마다 되네 대 연도 단다 파파 루드게 우마리츠 코르타 되네 대 연도 다와타팔라소 베장 대타르도 예 버송 요래 롱기드발라 사치 넘버 쭈히고네 휴바렐라 다 대지수 춘tin 숨발라 드네 가리슈요레세나 롱라 멘케비 top 땅이 봉어담바 드네 카히게 롱텐주 공바 친질로도 잘네 드네 롱텐주게 송요레데 있나요데 녜다 마인바 종단레세네 송아렐라 tene tatanda tige tongdayin bege junsen kashi songye pa tikorla tene sachi namba chuchi de ta kasi chutin sumba ka kapsu hibare la tene ta drink kapsula kari hyogre se na ta tela dewar hibi nimbola madi pa lota se na nyimi yebe korta dewarhi bi nimbola tepatan ichichi na tela penye kor ta tenzo hyugri
The Mountain Dharma, the Ocean of Certainty by Dolpo Johnson has in general three main parts, and these are the ground, the path, and the result. And of these three, we are talking about the ground, the way things are. So here, when we're talking about the ground, the way things are, in our first session, we talked about how Buddha nature, or in this translation, it's called the matrix of the one gone thus. So the Buddha nature, talking about how Buddha nature is present within all sentient beings. And so That was discussed that is what I discussed in the first session. Then in the second session, we talked about how this is proven by the completely pure scriptures. And so in the proving it by the completely pure scriptures, we talked about how the sutras of the Buddha taught that there is Buddha nature and what reason they gave for there being Buddha nature. Likewise, we also talked about how in the classes of Tantra, the secret mantra Vajrayana, how it explained that there is Buddha nature present within all sentient beings. Likewise, we also talked about how the Supreme Continuum, or the Uttara Tantra Shastra by Maitreya, discusses Buddha nature, and also how Nagarjuna's collection of reasonings, his Madhyamaka treatises, and also the treatises by Chandrakirti, also teach the same thing. And so this was covered in 14 different sections of the outline, and so that was what we discussed in the second session. Then in our third session yesterday morning, what did we talk about? We talked about how if those people who who do not understand the scriptures correctly generate wrong views, and so there are some scholars who read things that are written in the scriptures, but they understood them wrong. They commented upon them wrong, and they would say things that are the expedient meaning are really the things that are really the definitive meaning. They said were the expedient meaning, and so forth. And so this is what we talked about in yesterday's session when we covered this in 11 different, and this was covered in 11 different topics. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? What we are going to be talking about today is how if we do not believe that there is Buddha nature, if we have wrong views about Buddha nature, if we do not believe that it's there, then this talks about the problems and the faults that come out of it, or literally the defects that would come out of that. And we will also talk about the benefits that come from believing that we do have Buddha nature.
Tene ta tele tangpo ta dewarki binimbo la tepa tang ichi mepa tenzo la ta tepa tang ichi me na tezi nipa yo nimi yo re suwa re la nimi yepa te yang ta tanda long on se na long jonga on se te tene long jonga ta kale zeina long kahi ge na la kare song yo re se na tene jiwa ngamala sono masapala tene tanda dewarki binimbo la ichi metopa tene teya ndo sonting kando gomba tardo sie na tene je jiwa ngamala jiwa zangbo meba ta te kale shopi zeina tene tinando salbo mambo tene jiwa ngamala jiwa memba langbala tene ichi mepige junsen rabo ta tene songyo pache ta tene te yendo tanda tene tenchenpo la soto ndoi gomba tarjo onto se na tene kahi la ta tanda neka ndevu ngenpa yunga rabo che ta kahi ge longa na la tene tartu ke tawa yang tapa ta te ngune junsen ta dempa rabo che re la tene tartu ke tawa yang tapa che to gomba yang tapa che nyepar sepa la tene te la tepa to ichi gugi yore junsen teacher na ngaranzo tanda doji chungtu me sonde ge na la ya tene mugu gomje ngor sumba yen se song yore la tepa ta mugu ta ichi yapo che ye na tene ti chue de nyamsling tu gre tepa ta mugu ta ichi te tsam ke me na tene ti te tsam ke nyamne si tu ma re ta ti ranging ke ngarang sen la mu pa te tsam me pa tepa te tsam me pa ichi te tsam me pa ye na tene chue de nyamne si tu yo ma re la chue de nyamne si ma to nan rebo de to yo ma re tene junsin teacher na tangbo tepa ta mugu gre se ne suwa la je se na je mondi ke son rabo je yo re de je se na ngoni tani junsen te me na tene chue de drevo de top moto panda boji yore la tene di cherna de or hi bin bola te ba to ichi ya pala ten ichi me na de som gnyo ne tu mare so.
And so of these two, the first we'll talk about the problems that happen if we don't believe that there is Buddha nature, the defects or the problems that will happen. And this is discussed in 15 different quotations. And you can look at these quotations on your own. You can read them at your leisure. But some of them, in general, some of them talk about how in previous lives we had not accumulated enough merit. And because we had not accumulated enough merit in the previous lives, then we're unable to really generate confidence that there is that there is Buddha nature. This is taught in the Angulimala Sutra. This says that some people, even though now they have taken good births, in the past they had bad births, and because they are unable to, because of these low births in the past, they are unable to really have confidence in there being Buddha nature. And so that's what is said in the Angulimala Sutra. And similarly, in the Great Cloud Great Cloud Sutra, what it says is that in the temporary term, we need to attain results. And we also need to attain in order to attain these temporary results, we need to have the good or the correct ultimate view, the right ultimate view. And if we have that correct ultimate view, then we will be able to do our meditation. And so in order to be able to do our meditation, we need to have faith, and we need to have devotion, we need to have belief that there is Buddha nature. That is why, for example, in the short Vajradhara lineage prayer, which we recite, it is said that devotion is the head of meditation, as it's taught. And so here, what it's saying is that if we have faith, if we have devotion, if we have belief in the Dharma, then we will be able to do Dharma practice. We will be able to retain the result from that. But if we don't have so much faith, if we don't have so much devotion and don't have so much belief and confidence, then we won't be able to practice all that well either. And this is just how it happens naturally. If we don't have interest and if we don't have faith, then we really won't be able to get anything out of our Dharma practice, or we won't be able to do our Dharma practice. And if we aren't able to do our Dharma practice, then we won't really be able to attain any sort of result of this. And so for that reason, we need to have the faith and devotion. Now, this might seem like it's just saying, oh, we need to have blind faith, but maybe it is blind faith, but actually maybe there is a reason for it. Maybe there's a reason behind it. Because if we don't, but maybe if we have this faith, then we'll be able to realize something. We'll be able to realize that we have the Buddha nature. And so if we have that, we will be able to practice, we will be able to attain the result. But if we don't have any faith, we don't have any devotion or confidence, then we won't really be able to do our practice all that well.
Tene tateya tanda 무구 검증고 오르숨바긴 생긴데 다 지당가 고아가 온듯이나 다제 갈치와한다 보지 성요아레데 이나야 협도 섬나 디베데베 갈치보 살포 요아레라 베르나 나란소 다디 무구디 고르다 보지다 드네 추게 냠린데 루본다 보지라 베혀나 다치탄 성노타나 고디 춘춘다 보지 데네 루보데 베 쳔보다고 당고라 뜨나 베 쳔보레라 데네 고당 루보니 수갈체그레세나 루보 갈체그레 대견도 띵엔zen 감베카슬라 데네 무구다 데네 냠린이 수갈체그레세나 냠린 갈체그레 som바다고 데 존신 베혀나타 루보데 쳔보임비잖아 갈체와레 som바다고 요레 요레테 이나야 루보 쳔보 때랑 고춘춘데 메나 되니 내가 가야 요 말해라 tene ngo chunchung de mena meki tatugiyo mare, anchoki nyi tugiyo mare, tene ka ni kecha hi tugiyo mare, ka ni kala sa tugiyo mare, tene ngo chunchung de mena leka kanya yo mare. Pe te yendo tene mugu de mena, tene ngo yigi nyamling te tsam pento chenpo yungi yo mare la. Junsin teacher na mugu gamje ngor sumba yinse, mugu korang bija jani tepa tang ichi yaboji yo na, tene tela tene chu ngo yigi nyamling te cha sangwa yaboji yungi yo re la. Tani mugu tang ichi ge tepa te tsam me na, tene ta tege tela tene ngo yigi sawa tege leran te cha sangwa je do tuge yo ma re la. Junsin teacher na mugu gamje ngor sumba yinse kente pe kalchi imba re la. Tene tanda kap ndana la ya ta dewar hibi nimbo la tepa to ichi chi pa te kalchi wa re tende suwa yinsa.
When we say devotion's the head of meditation as it's taught, then of course when we think of the head and we think of devotion, then it sounds like it's something that's important. It's something really good. It sounds like that. But if we actually look at the example really closely, then we see that it's actually a really good example. It's a really clear example, and it's a really wonderful example of this. Because if the head, if devotion is like the head, and then the actual Dharma practice that we do is like the body, then for the example, if we look at these two of these, well, we've got the head and we've got the body. The head is actually kind of small, and the body is really big. And so if we look at it in that way, well, which of these two is more important? Well, obviously the body is more important. And then similarly, when we think about our actual Dharma practice as opposed to the devotion, which of these is more important? Well, it's the actual practice that's more important. That's what we think. But and so we think that the big body is important. We think that the Dharma practice is important, and so that's what we normally think. But actually, if you think about it, our body may be big, but without this one little tiny little head, it wouldn't be able to do anything at all. We wouldn't be able to look at anything with our eyes. We wouldn't be able to listen to anything. Sorry. I'm going to make a joke. I'm going to make more of a joke than Rinpoche did. We wouldn't be able to run off at the mouth in any sort of way. We wouldn't be able to eat. We wouldn't be able to have any conversations. That's what Rinpoche really said. We wouldn't be able to have any conversations. We wouldn't be able to eat anything. And so without this little head, our body wouldn't be able to do anything at all. And in the same way, when we do our Dharma practice, if we don't have devotion, if we don't have that faith and belief, then we won't really be able to get much benefit out of our actual practice. And so when we say that devotion is like the head of meditation, if we have faith, if we have devotion, then when we come to the actual Dharma practice, and are doing the actual Dharma practice, then it will go very well, and we'll be able to get all of the benefits from it. But if we don't have that much devotion, if we don't have that much faith, then because of not having much faith or devotion, we really won't be able to accomplish much with our actual practice. And so for that reason, it's very important to understand that the devotion is the head of meditation. And so here, what it's saying here is that it's very important to have faith and devotion, that the matrix of the one Gandhas, or Buddha nature, is present within all sentient beings.
Tene ta tela tanda ta madi pe nyimi tempa tela ta tanda kapnder zo repeat drupa mayin pa long go ne drupa ra long ju yi go ne drupa yin bi chna long ten ju ge nam ta te madi pa da de war ki bi nimbo la tepa me na ni pa chimbo nyimi yung re ta ten de song yo ra 다 디게 데블라 카리고그레세나 사치 님바 텔라 다 디게 탑라 구바치 구기요레라 티니티 구바치 바티 단다 사치 님바 텔라 tene ndo nyangin de ndo ta nyangin de ndo hlai dawe jirwa tene namba ni go ne somte ta te ya perna tene yarka tene shomon tenzo tene rangingi ya ta joshira mepanda buti go ne jege yo la pi te yendo tanda dewarhi bin bola 대바다 이치도 무기 체버진지 여나 되니 띵엔지 엔틴테 라잉긴 좀 그래 되는데 단도 냥이는 대바다 라이 다위주리 냥이는 대도 너니게 나는 되는데 바티 성요 그래.
And so that was the discussion of the problems and the defects, the faults of not having any faith in the presence of Buddha nature. This is not really proven in terms of logic, rather it is proven by quotations from scriptures. And so here this is proven, there are 14 different scriptures that are cited in order to prove this. And so these scriptures basically say what happens if we don't have any faith in the Buddha nature. What problems arise, what faults and difficulties will come about because of that. And so what do we actually really need to do? Well, what we need to do is, this is what is talked about in the second section here. The second section talks about having great respect or great faith in the methods. And so this is talked about with two different quotations from scriptures. One is from the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, and the other is from the Mahaparinirvana Sutra translated by Devachandra. So these two different scriptures give teachings on this. And the example that is given here is that in the summer there aren't a lot of mushrooms. This is probably talking about a summer in India, a dry summer in India, not necessarily one in North America. In the summer, there aren't a lot of mushrooms because there isn't enough water for the mushrooms to grow. So they don't grow. You don't see any mushrooms. And in the same way, if we don't have, but when the rains come, then the mushrooms will grow. And in the same way, if we have the faith and the devotion in the Buddha nature, then we will be able to develop good samadhi. This will just naturally happen. And so this is what both the Parinirvana Sutra and the Parinirvana Sutra translated by Devachandra both say.
Tene ta tejiso ta sachi jimatela tene tanda deorhi binimbola depato ichiji penya ta tanda te kondo tembate maripato lotashi binimi temba ta nibate tejiso depatan ta depatan kupatan ichiji penya so la tene teya tangbo something jinjin dola tene song ye pajeta tene tejiso tanda tanda tenju jimbo jila me ganando tembata tene ta tejendo ihi no jinjin do da tene loben le densi la so be gomba mambo song yo re la ta tenzo kale het zeitna tene te salvo yore la te nane zo tabu te kande song yo re se na tene jilam na to song yo re jilam na to song na dewarhi be nimbo la tepata ichi ji be pen te tene perna jinba ji tana jinba la sonam chembo yo re tene sonam chembo yo re te yendo tsutem song na tsutem la sonam chembo yo te yendo tingen zen gom na tingen zen juma gom na yo sonam chembo yo re te yena te le tene ta ti dewarhi be nimbo la tepata ichi ji na be peyan chembo yo re so.
And so the last section is it talks about the benefits of having faith in there being Buddha nature. So we had a section about the problems of not having faith in Buddha nature, and then there's this section that teaches about the benefits of having faith in Buddha nature. And this begins with a quote, with a citation from the Angulimala Sutra, that it also has a citation from the Supreme Continuum and a citation from the Clear Appearances of Wisdom Sutra, and also citations from Vaivaveka and many other teachers. And so these are all in the book. You can look at them at your own leisure. They're relatively clear. But among all of these citations, the most important one is the one from the Uttara Tantra Shastra, the Supreme Continuum. And what the Supreme Continuum says is it talks about the benefits of having faith and devotion in the presence of Buddha nature within all of us. And what it says is that if we are generous, then that is really a very great merit. It's a wonderful, great merit. And similarly, if we maintain our discipline, or in here, actually, what we often translate as discipline is in here translated as morality. You can think of it either way. Discipline, if we translate discipline, then that is also a great benefit, a great merit. And similarly, if we perform the ordinary types of samadhi meditations, these are also very beneficial and a very great merit. But having faith and devotion in Buddha nature is much more beneficial and far more, a far greater merit than any of those.
Tene ta te yang ta tangbor jepara suare la te yang perna jimbage ondo se na tene tanda serji tepa serji ne tene noburmboji tepa somji me japa tene mangbo sanji ji henge dulji tondon nyamba tene ya chepa pul ma jimba tang tene se na peso nam chemba yungu yore rete yinaya tela durna ta tanda sanji jamden de chisumba katama gondan katama ngeden jin dodi tamji je gondan tini tela tige tsaitenzo nalamdo tu ne ta tepe yapore sambeke tepatan ichi cheparchinchi ji na tini ti jimbatan chepa pulwa le sunam tang tini ta tanda katama liber number 7 dodi namche gondan la tepatan ichi chepa ni ti susunam chegare se na tini ti jimba le sunam ti lechi mambo ki chembo tini katama liber number 7 chujun kulu gondan la tini tepatan ichi chepa tela sunam chembo tawure.
So if we look at this in detail, then first we'll take the example of generosity. And what it says is that if someone is generous by taking a precious gold vessel and then all sorts of wish-fulfilling jewels and everything precious they can find that are equal in number to all the grains of sand in all of the universes, or all of the particles in all of the universes, and they make offerings of these up to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they're generous with them down towards all the beggars and unfortunate people. That is a wonderful, great, huge amount of merit. But in comparison to that, if someone just hears in the passages of their ears, if they hear the sounds of the words of the final turning of the wheel of the Dharma that teach the definitive meaning, they hear this meaning in their ears, and they think it's good, and they begin to have some faith arise with them about that. In comparison to that generosity, making all the offerings and being generous in that vast way. Between that and listening and hearing and having faith in the words of the profound meaning of the last turning of the wheel of Dharma, of definitive meaning, which of these is a greater amount of merit? The one that is by far the greater merit, a much, much greater merit, is having the faith in the words of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, which teach the definitive meaning.
Tene ta tegen도 니바 출sem거 온도 시에나 tene ta tanda kung number top go ne tuji yang rimbo la tene luji go ne dipa mgewa tenzo pang ngog go ne dipa mgewa tenzo pang yiji go ne tene dipa mgewa tenzo pang ne 출sem이 야부 ji song na tene tela jitang sonam jachin buto re re de yinaya ta tanda sanji jam den de jing den jin do de tam chi je gong dan de nalam do tu ne tela tepa tam mu ji na gong do churim sung le flop tene sonam chi jachin bu de tau re so.
Secondly, if we think about discipline, if someone out of an utterly pure motivation and for a very long time practices the discipline of giving up all the misdeeds and non-virtues of the body, of giving up all the misdeeds and non-virtues of the speech, and of giving up all the misdeeds and non-virtues of the mind. And by giving these all up, holds perfect discipline for a very long time. That is a great, vast, wonderful amount of merit. But in comparison to that, if someone just hears the words of the sutras that teach the definitive meaning, hears them in their ears, and then from hearing them within their ears, they begin to get faith and devotion into it. In comparison to the prior merit for discipline, this is a much vaster amount of merit.
Tene ta tegen도 숨바 다 당보대 김발리 중선음 이바대 출sem리 중선음 다 검발리 중선음 레라 야 띵엔자이 히네지 띵엔자이 검네 tene ta tanda lai nesuji tingenzeng da la changbe ge kompong to be hine ji tingenzeng gam ne de gamba de la tene ne ka ge nyam ba ten zong go ne tene nyam ba ten zong go ne ba la tene lutin che par che lai kompong to pa ta tende yung yo re di ge sonam de da 단다 까타마 리버 넘버 2 추준 콜루게 니렌진 도데 남제 단라 대바던 이치지니 지나 디니 수수놈 체그레세나 데네 까타마 리버 넘버 2 추준 콜루 gondan라 대바던 이치지바데 수놈 체그레 수.
And then third, in terms of the benefits of meditation, if someone does the tranquility or shamatha meditation, perfects that samadhi, and through that they do the meditation that leads to rebirth in the God realms, or they do the meditations that lead to rebirth as Brahma, by doing that sort of meditation, they are able to suppress their afflictions. And through suppressing their afflictions, they are able to attain a state where they will take rebirth in an excellent body, in a superior body, in a divine realm. But in comparison to that, if we think about hearing the words of the third turning of the wheel, the Dharma, that well differentiates the characteristics, hearing and teaches the definitive meaning, hearing that in our ears, and then gaining faith and devotion in that, which of these is more meritorious, which is a greater merit, than hearing the words of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, which which differentiate well the characteristics? This is by far the greater merit.
Tene ta te tardo jimbale sun senum le chepartam papa. Tene tanda 출sem리 sun senum le chepartam papa. Tene gombale sun senum le chepartam papa re sun. Te tanda sun rela te re sun tomato tumbo junsin ten yo mare te junsin ten na ichi chewarin juru cherna. Tene jimbale sun senum le chepartam papa junsin kare re sena. Jimba jachimboji tona, longche jachimboji togre, tati sonam jitobji longche dubtogre la. Tene longche teyan, tene neka sache tong sami nige nane, tartu sache ke dewa ndaboji re mato. 데라 소놈 다디게 타르투근데부 토토기요 마레라 데네 준신 티처나 데네 짐발리 중 소놈 레 데네 단다 가기요레 제지 다니바데 수렴리 중 소놈 레중 다 제버던 바바레 준신 가리레세나 수렴이 양 타바지서나 데네 토리 라도메 루틴 토기요레 Tinin tori lai tong la tong mei lutin toge yuwa re te neka sachi ki dewa zangki re. Te yendo gamba le chung sonam ke on sumba gamba le chung sonam je on to se na tini hini je tingen zen gam na neka niya momba te ngot nenge yuwa re ma to tini tarsu pang toge yuwa ma re la. Tini ta ti sumbo te le sukal che ge yuwa re se na chuni ge nelu jetawa yendo tobe hirap te kal che ge yuwa re. Hirap tige nyamomba drabata hiji drabala sobatan je pone tartu zobu sonji jamden de kompon de top to bi yore la teni junsin teacher na hirap te teni jimbali jun sonam ton sutrem ne jun sonam ton teni gambali jun sonam le chepartam papare 다 데이터부게 주 체버던 파바티기 자와데 칸데레세나 니렌진 도데노지 공단 사모데 안초라 투네 드니 데바도모 이치지나 드니 티히랍 토기요 토기요라라 드니 준신 티처나 드니 단다 니렌진 도데노지 단투 데라 이치지나 드니 짐바탄 수심탄 감발레스 소놈 제 무폴리 체버던 파바레
And so here, the merit from listening to these sutras is far greater than being generous. It is far greater than maintaining discipline. It is far greater than the ordinary meditations. And so here it says that it's greater than that, but here it doesn't teach the reasons. But perhaps if I teach the reasons, you might believe it a little bit more. And so for that reason, I thought I would tell you the reason. And so the reason it is superior to the merit that comes out of generosity is that by being generous, what happens is that is the cause for, in the future, having a lot of wealth and possessions. And so in the future, you attain a lot of wealth and possessions. But what are these wealth and possessions? Well, we have two types of happiness. We have defiled happiness and we have undefiled happiness. And of these two different types of happiness, the wealth and the possessions are really defiled happiness. They're not the undefiled happiness. And so for that reason, that is why developing the faith in the sutras is better. Similarly, with maintaining our discipline, it is superior to maintaining the discipline because discipline is the cause of attaining bodily support of the higher realms, body support in the divine realm or body support in the human realm. But these are both, again, defiled happiness. So these are defiled happiness, not undefiled. Similarly, through the ordinary meditations, through doing tranquility meditation, we are able to suppress the afflictions, but we are not able to ultimately, completely abandon them totally. And so for that, what do we need in order to do that? We need to be able, in order to be able to abandon the afflictions entirely and totally, what we need to be able to do, what we need is to have the wisdom that realizes the way the Dharma nature, or in here it's called the Nyingma, the way the Dharma nature, Dharmata, all three are the same thing. The Dharmata is the Sanskrit word. So we need to have the wisdom that teaches what the Dharma, that knows what the Dharma nature is. And through that, we will be able to completely abandon the afflictive and the cognitive obscurations. And through abandoning the cognitive obscurations, then we are able to attain the ultimate state of Buddhahood. And so for that reason, we need this wisdom. And that wisdom is far superior to the ordinary types of meditation and discipline and generosity. But what is the root of this meditation. How do we get this meditation? We develop the meditation by hearing with our ears the words of the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma that teaches the definitive meaning. And after hearing these words, we develop faith and devotion, and through that, we will develop the wisdom. And so that is why hearing the words of the definitive meaning and developing faith in them is so much superior to ordinary sorts of generosity or discipline or meditation.
Tene ta te tardo sene ta jima te tabu sene tene cheparto te pato ichi cheparjin ji gu yo la te pato ichi cheparjin chepa ta te la te pa ji bi ge pen te la sa ji ni ye benane 당보 대파지발라 펜예 비출 펜예 예발라 때네 대파지비게 탑라 가리고 그랬어나 드니 상지 좀 된대지 노냥이는데 빈도이나니 상대다 데라 데네 마홍발라 노냥이는데 바텔라 비 가르침보 난고 그래 에 상네다 노이노도 좀 제타 대점도 용 맞이 단다 Tene tanda ndonyangilende benando tene dolpopa hirap jansen longtene tene dolpopa hirap jansen te chonchir kayor hia sala kayor dolpo ge sachachela takon kontubarela tene ndonyangilende benando songna tene tela moke matsupa ta sacha tongba sacha emba ta tandaya 돌보데 사자 엠바 동바 라고 요래라 드니 데라 드니 겐홍시도 저르니 드니 겐홍디게 단다 냥일인데 번도이 공단데 차 상와 니네 드니 냥일인데 번도이 드니 추침보 도 추지 나오지 침보 동 추지 동베이 추지 잔신 도 추지 잔신 댕 다든데 난그레 손네 상지 좀 된데 진도이 농도 롱템바레라 된 대답지 임비처나 된 단다 도 지당게 되네 까타마 리버 넘버 7 추진 콜링이된 진도 되던지 갈치와 임바다 대 노네 냥이는데 번도데 갈치와 임바다 냥이는데 번도에 공단데 제타와 임도 템바데 다탄다 존치르카요를 게롱고 넘버 100그레서네 되네 룬데 나와데라 되네 대바도 이치지도 봐 용그레서
And so we need to develop this sort of confidence, this sort of belief, and in order to do that, we need to understand its benefits. And so here we have two different sections about this. And the first of these sections teaches the benefits of having, or how having faith brings us benefit. But what is the method for developing such sort of faith? This is something, the method is taught in the Mahayana Parinirvana Sutra. And what it says in this sutra is that in the future we should consider this sutra of the Parinirvana to be a very important sutra. That is the first thing it says. But not only that, it also this sutra of the Parinirvana Sutra also gives a prophecy about Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen. And what it says is that in the future, in a place called Kayori, and a place called Kayori, there would be someone would be born who would then particularly study this sutra, the Parinirvana Sutra, and understand it. And this place, the place of Kayori, is a place that would be very empty, a solitary place. And actually, that is what Dolpo, where Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen is like. It's still like that today. It's a very empty and solitary place. And so it is said here that there would be a bhikshu, a monk, a bhikshu here who would come to find the complete meaning of the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. And then from finding that meaning of the sutra, he would make it resound. He would beat the great the great Dharma drum to make its meaning sound. He would make it well known. He would raise the victory banner of this Dharma. And so in this way, there was this prophecy that is made in the Parinirvana Sutra. And it's a prophecy, the prophecy that Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen would understand it and would teach this sutra. And so here, this sutra, of course, all of the sutras of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma that teach the definitive meaning are important. But among all of these sutras, the one that is most important is this Mahayana Parinirvana Sutra. And so it is a particular sutra, and it really, and it's a wonderful superior sutra that gives this prophecy about Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen. And so I thought that if you knew that, it would help you have more faith and devotion.
Tene ta te jiso ta tanda te tongbo te dewarhi binimbo la ichi mi binimi dang te jiso temba te dewarhi binimbo la ichi be pen te temba de la ta te jiso che lodo ndabo tende chargere lodo chalwa chalbe lodo pangwarela chalbe lodo pangwadela lodo gande chargere sena senjin thamje la dewarhi be nimbo yeba yen yeba ta sanji ji nimbo yobna tene senjin thamje pontu chachangwa ta pontu chachangwa ta we jian yo re senjin thamje la tene sanji ji kompon to ba pongwa phosong so ba to ba phosong so ba yeba yen roji re sombe ke to ba jai ta teacher na dewarhi be nimbo yo mare sambata 다 로또 니바데 센제 탐지 추니 드네 선음도 이히지 추니 차창와서 그버탈와 데네 사치 숨바데 종제도 종자라서 발라 출네 출벨 로또 봉와데 섬이요와래라 다 데나네 당보 센제 탐지라 봉도 총와르 탈와 다 빵와 동 또바 풍성 소바 강가 예거지레 드네 데워히비 님보이나 센제 탐지 니에몬바 탐지 봉 tene toji enten tamchi zo tende drog marbe sena ta tela ponto ge enten la namba ni yore tambo pon pason so bon de sena tene ta te tanda tma tamchi ye demani mepege pon a jai ta neka lobr je tma ti nyimbu jombe pon a te namba ni yore la Dei non è tramatamci ye demani me pe puan poson so pa te senji tanji le yore yore di na ngand majur pa neka lobr jitme drip de parela neka lobr jitme tramatin jambe nyimbu ge puan te tanda lam samola te ne pangu yore.
And so here we've had a section about teaching about the faults of not having faith that there is Buddha nature and the benefits of having that confidence and belief that there is Buddha nature. And then what follows this is a section that talks about different faults or different wrong thoughts that can arise. And so this has three different parts. And so what are the different types of wrong thoughts that might arise? The first of these is that, well, if all sentient beings have Buddha nature, and that so if that Buddha nature is by nature a Buddha, then all sentient beings must have the complete excellent abandonment, that is, getting rid of all of the obscurations that a Buddha has, and they must have the excellent realization that a Buddha has. And so, therefore, all sentient beings, if they have Buddha nature, must have the excellent abandonment, and they must have the excellent realization. But they don't. And so, for that reason, there can't be any Buddha nature. That's the first wrong thought. The second wrong thought is that, well, if all sentient beings have Buddha nature, then they must have completed the two accumulations because they have the nature of the Buddha in there. And so that's the consequence of if they have Buddha nature, they must have completed the two accumulations. That's the second wrong thought. And the third wrong thought is to confuse the ground that is purified with the stains that are purified. In English, it's not as clear as in Tibetan. So the ground that is made clean with is confused with the stains that are gotten rid of, to put it in colloquial language. And so the first of these is the idea that if we have Buddha nature, we have to have the entire excellent realization and excellent abandonment of Buddha. And so here the idea is that if there is Buddha nature, then sentient beings must have gotten rid of all of the afflictions, and they must have developed all of the qualities of realization. And so in terms of these two, the first of these is about the complete abandonment of all the Buddhas. And so there are two ways that we have abandoning these stains. And the first of these things is that we have from beginningless time, from the very beginning, they do not really exist. The stains do not really exist. And so in that way, from the very beginning, we do not have these stains. And then the second way of abandoning the stains is to conquer them with the antidote, or to get rid of them through the antidote, that is by following the good path, making efforts along the good path. And so of these two different types of complete abandonment, the original, the one from the very beginning, is present within all sentient beings, because our nature is naturally, we are naturally pure in the nature, but this is still hidden by the temporarily hidden by the adventitious stains. And so we do need to rely upon the antidote in order to get rid of them. We need to follow the good path and use the antidote to get rid of these stains.
Tene ta te pong pa so bo on de separe la. Ta to pa so bo on de se na ya. Tene devar hi bi nimbo de la ye pa la tene. Tene yene rangjung gi hi yene ye pa rangjung gi hi te ta ne ka lobro je tma pong pa la tene yenjung gi hi te namba ni yo la tene ta devar hi bi nimbo la yene rangjung gi hi te yo te yena ya te lobro je tme ne tene ne ka tene tsuni sapa la tene tanda lobru chitrama salte yenjungi hiti sartu topgo yore techi yo mare la teacher na tene senchi tangji ponto ge yentin ton dembar tawe ge chenti yo mare.
So that was talking about the excellent abandonment. And then in terms of the excellent realization, the idea is that if a sentient being has Buddha nature, then they have to have the excellent realization of a Buddha. But in terms of the excellent realization, there are again two types of this. There is the self-arising wisdom that is from the very beginning present within all sentient beings. But then there is the other arisen wisdom of getting rid of all the temporary defilements and stains. And so of these two, all sentient beings do have this self-arisen wisdom that is present within us from the very beginning. But it is temporarily hidden by the adventitious stains. And so because it is hidden by the adventitious stains, we do need to gather the two accumulations of merit and wisdom, and through that we purify the adventitious stains, and in that way we develop the other arisen wisdom. We need to develop that within us. And since we haven't yet done that, we don't yet have that other arisen wisdom. And so in this way, this idea that there is a problem because of all sentient beings not having the wisdom is not a fault.
Tene ta tejen do saji ni ba te tsuni senji dong ji tsuni so par ta ge jian pong ba te ya ji dang ge tsuni de la Ten tambe ge tsu tong kunzup ge tsu namba ni yore la. Tene ten tambe on de se na tsu ni sa gu ge yo mare ye ne ranjung ge hi de yore re te yena ya kunzup ge on de se na tene kunzup ge tsu ni te ta ten tambe ge tsu te ngop den ba ta chue la namba ni ye pe na ne ten tambe ge tsu te ngop den ba ta tene kunzup ge tsu te lamji den ba te namba ni ye pe na ne kunzup ge tendam ge tsu ngop den ba te sa gu ge yo mare te yena ya kunzup ge tsu tene tanda lamji den ba te drup gu ge yo re la lamji den ba te drup ni nyam so long te ta te ne kap je pon tu ge yen te cha sang wa zo gu ba yin bi cher na tene lamji den ba le zang gu ge yo re so
So the second problem that is the idea that sentient beings have already accumulated the two accumulations. And so this fault, if we look at it, there are actually two different types of accumulations of merit and wisdom. There is the ultimate accumulation of merit and wisdom, and there is the relative accumulation of merit and wisdom. And of these two, in terms of the ultimate accumulation of merit and wisdom, there ultimately is no need to accumulate it because the self-arisen wisdom is present within all sentient beings. However, in relative terms, if we think about it, the ultimate accumulation of merit and wisdom is among the four truths, it is the truth of cessation. And the relative accumulation of merit and wisdom is the truth of the path. And so of these two, in the ultimate terms of the truth of cessation, there's no need to accumulate anything. However, in terms of relative terms, we do need to accumulate. We do accumulate merit and wisdom. We do need to realize the truth of the path, and we need to practice the truth of the path, and through practicing it, we need to accomplish it. And in this way, we need to, in the short term, develop the complete abandonment and realization. And so we need to realize it. And so for that reason, we do still need to make efforts at the path.
Tene ta te je so jongi jongsa la so balan trebe lo to te jongi jongja te kande je re se na kap ndar ndo ina to so na tene pe na dance la pe ka bare la dance te tangbo ni ngamo te yore te ina ya drama thamchi ge song ne dance te so ya thogi yo mare la 다 데라 타키 가리시 구그레시나 당마 텐조 파 사실 현도 라 땅 투부게 되니 자와 데 사실 현도 땅 투부 타키지 시구기 요래 되니 디 타키디 제네 당마 텐조 로차르나 되니 당스티 나란소 나르모타 되니 지던 덴바텔라 롱치 투기 요래라 페테 현도 단당 나란소 데버키비 힘보 요래데 로브르지니아 몽베트미게 드네 땡한테 저투기 요 말레라 데 드라마 당다와지세 드라마 디 사체 현도 땅산나 동스텔라 롱체바 현도 되네 단다 디고니 단다 dancer la long get to begin the devarki begin bin de but ngan de churtu re so yam pe yen da serje pe ji yore de te kasi ta te ju chimbo ji la man ne so atar do hyu samba de la ta de ta go ne jong ji to jong ji ge jen de yo ma re so re to
The next section is about the fault of confusing the basis that is purified with the stains that are purified or gotten rid of. And so this is talked about in the sutras, and it gives an example in the sutra. The example in the sutras is of honey. Honey is naturally very sweet. and wonderful, but it's something that all the bees keep us all from getting. We can't enjoy it because of all the bees around it. And so if we want to be able to get the honey, we need to figure out some way to make the bees go away. And so then once we make all the bees go away, and they've all gone, then we can enjoy the sweetness and all of the nutrition within the honey. And so in the same way, we all have within ourselves the Buddha nature that is present, but it is hidden by the stains of the afflictions. And so because of that, it's not really manifest. And so just as so that's like the honey. And just as we need to, and so these stains are like the bees. And just as we need to send the bees away so that then we can enjoy the honey, in the same way, once we can get rid of the stains, then the Buddha nature that is present within us will become manifest. And so this is one example that's given. Another example that's given from the sutras is the example of gold. And this is more or less the same as the example from the Supreme Continuum that I explained the other day. And so in this way, this discusses how the fault of confusing the basis of purification with that which is purified, that fault does not really exist. And so that is how it is taught.
Tene ta te jesu sachi tamate ta tanda te tabu dewariki binimbola dan doni ta tangbo dewariki binimbote te longi tempe solte te longi tempe solte tene te la loto pompe che solto tene te la kupasi pe che penya la sopa rem yenda tempa te che ta te ye nelu tempare la tene ye nelu tempe jukdo ate de orhi bi himbo la tene kupaton chi bi sa sarwa yin sun ki ji jukdo no re ta ti tanda ngedan rishu ngedan janso la ye lam rebu song ge leu som ye penani ye leu de trupare.
The last section is a conclusion, wrap-up, sort of a wrap-up of everything. And what this says is it first goes over again how Buddha nature is present within all people, and all sentient beings, how that is taught in the scriptures, and then the how to abandon any wrong thoughts about this, and then the benefits of developing respect about this. And so this is all taught as a conclusion, as a wrap-up of this section. And so that completes this teaching on the ground, the way the ground is. And so then at the end of this, there is, as a final conclusion of this, there is a prostration, making prostrations as a way to conclude the section. And so here, within this teaching, the mountain Dharma, the ocean of certainty, there are the three main sections: the ground, or here it's called the basis, the path, and then the fruit, it's called in this translation, or result, you could also say. And among these three different sections, we have covered the first of these, which is on the ground. And so that is enough for today, and we will now do a bit of meditation.
So